Peace. Today's mathematics is knowledge culture, which is 14 or 1 and 4, all manifest in power, or in other words, 1 and 4 equals 5, the same way that knowledge and culture manifests power. How? Well, when you look at knowledge and culture, the link of the bridge between knowledge and culture, or 1 and 4, is 3. So if you could visualize that for a second, when you look at the number 14, 1 and 4, the connective tissue or the link or the bridge between 1 and 4 is 3, or understanding. In other words, what that means is if you really want to know about culture, if you want to have more knowledge or to be more aware of someone or a people's way of life, you have to have understanding. You have to have understanding. Now, understanding is to see things for what they are, not what they appear to be. And that is important because a lot of times people think that they have an understanding, but they don't because they're not looking at people for who and what they are. Why? Because a lot of times people approach culture like a tourist. They approach it from a very surface or cosmetic perspective. You got people that go to certain ethnic restaurants and they think that they know now about people from Mexico, from India, or Sudan, or any other type of place because they like those type of ethnic foods, right? Or they read a few articles or some books about a person or a group of people, and now they think they're expert on that person or that people's culture. Or they read some magazines or watch some videos or a documentary, and now they think they're an expert. Or they might have took some classes in school. Hey, they might even have gotten a degree in school, but they've never really been around the people that represent that culture. That's no different than people going on vacation and they just stay in the vacation spots. They never connect with the people who actually live there. They never venture off into no communities or neighborhoods or even have that type of connection with the everyday people who actually live there every day. And when you don't do that, you have a very limited understanding or very limited connection to the culture. It's a very surface and tourist approach. Now, it doesn't mean that certain type of ethnic foods or things that you may see in videos or documentaries or read in books or magazines or articles are not elements of the culture. They are, but they don't represent the sum total of the people activities that represents a culture in its entirety. They're just limited aspects or elements of that. And if you just stick to that, you're going to be missing the total spectrum of elements that represents a person's way of life. So now, if you venture off from some of these tourist locations and connect with the everyday people, you may find out like, man, I never knew about these type of ethnic foods that they eat. You just used to eating the commercial stuff at the restaurant that you usually go to. You may also find out that, this that I'm eating here is way different than what they serving at this commercial restaurant. This is the real stuff as opposed to that. But you won't learn that unless you really connect with the people. The same thing with being around people who actually live the culture. You learn about certain type of social norms that you wouldn't see on no video or learn in class from some professor that don't know or haven't been around the people either. So cultural immersion, or taking that anthropological approach by being amongst the people, enables you to have a unique perspective and understand people in a way that tourists or people who have a very surface or cosmetic approach would never be able to connect with. And that unique perspective that you begin to develop is a power of perception. So like I said initially, 1 and 4 manifest 5. The same way that knowledge and culture manifests power. That power of perception is linked to our understanding. Our ability to see people and a person for who they are, not what they appear to be, or not based upon being a tourist or having this cosmetic approach towards learning about who this person actually is. And when we have that power of perception, that enables us to deal with a level of social equality that others would never be able to deal with. And this that I'm sharing is vitally important, especially for those of us who live in a society where you have a dominant narrative that oftentimes does not reflect groups that are considered marginalized or subgroups within that society. You know, it's many times I turn on television or watch a movie and I don't see myself as a black man in America. Sometimes that may be a movie created by people who are considered black, and I may not see myself represented there. Sometimes it may be a person that has a certain type of disability that is marginalized or doesn't really have a voice within the society. As an example, I remember there was a store that opened in my neighborhood some years ago. And whenever I would go by the store, I would always see a person in a wheelchair, like sitting by the doors. And it took me time to realize that the reason that they were sitting outside of those doors is because the company that constructed that store didn't make it handicap accessible. So people who were in wheelchairs, and sometimes it was in inclement weather, had to sit outside and wait till someone pulled up to open the door in order for them to even get inside, or for someone to leave outside of the store for them to have an opportunity to get inside. The person that built that store, they did that with no consideration or not even thinking about people who had disabilities, because they didn't even make it accessible to them. And that lack of understanding is a constant theme that we see within this society, because a lot of times groups that are considered marginalized or that don't really have a voice, that don't represent the majority within the society, are left out. And a lot of times being left out like that, the society itself is not equitable. So that power of perception enables us to deal with a level of social equality where we are now able to make things fair for groups of people that are underrepresented and are marginalized, because we've invested the time to get an understanding about people and not be tourists or be cosmetic or surfaced in our connection with other human beings. So this was inspiring, it was empowering, it was educational, and just gave those of you some perspective on how supreme mathematics today is applicable in terms of knowledge culture. In order for us to know really about culture, we gotta have some understanding. We gotta have some understanding. And that understanding leads us to the ability to have the power of perception to be able to bring the human family together. So, peace.